Kristen Plymale, CSEP. I work for Strong Events, and I am a senior event producer / event designer. I grew up in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, in a town called Vancouver. Very normal suburbia, Northwest, lots of green trees, good things like that.
Your back's against the wall. There's no one home to call. Keep forgetting who you are.
When I moved to Austin and I told people I was thinking about moving to Texas, I was living in San Diego at the time, almost everybody I told from back home immediately laughed. Like they thought I was joking, like they thought I was out of my mind for wanting to move to Texas. And what you don't realize is that Portland and Austin are so similar in so many different ways that's kind of one of the things that attracted me to Austin. Was it felt like home, but it was still a completely new place to kind of discover and crack. The weather's definitely better. I have always been driven to succeed in school, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm a nerd. I like to learn. I did my class speech at my high school graduation because I was at the top of my class. I graduated from Washington State, cum laude. I took my GMATs. I was getting ready to apply for business school to get my MBA when I got my job at Strong, and I was like, why am I going to spend $80,000 a year when I can start making $80,000 a year? I was invited to apply to be a Rhodes Scholar, and I didn't do it because I was living in London at the time, and I was like, I'm not going to go live in Oxford. So that's pretty ridiculous. That's a stupid 19-year-old decision that you make. I love learning. I love to read. I like documentaries. I love all that stuff, and right now I'm really into my clase de español. I'm learning Spanish, and after that maybe Mandarin, who knows. And I don't really think it necessarily competes with the idea of being like a rock or goth chick, because I think that comes from me not feeling like I got along really well or was really well connected with my peers, and I actually think that goes hand in hand with being a nerd. I think it's just another way to express yourself creatively, and it's fun. I don't think it's as much effort as people think it is. Seriously, you get used to the shoes. But yeah, I love it. I love how it's always changing. I really love street style. I love really kind of the mixing of a lot of genres at once. It was one thing that I picked up when I was studying abroad in London is, these London girls, they would take a designer dress and put it with $5 shoes, and everything works together, and almost kind of the juxtaposition of the expensive and cheap sometimes is really just interesting as well. I do love to shop for a lot of that kind of stuff, secondhand or vintage, and try to mix it in with things that are, the fast fashion, the things that are happening now but maybe aren't as expensive. I wanted to be in the music business, and that was pretty much the end of it. And I started producing events in college with the school's budget, which was amazing. Right out of college, I got hired by a music management company in Laguna Beach called Rebel Waltz, where we managed bands like Gwen Stefani and No Doubt, and 9 Inch Nails, and The Offspring, and Social Distortion, and Hot Hot Heat, and it was a really small company. So as a 22-year-old recent college grad in my first full-time job, I was, calling Trent Reznor to remind him that he had interviews, which is pretty ridiculous. And I learned a lot from that job because I had my fingers in a little bit of everything. I had my fingers in publicity and marketing and licensing and touring and all these different things. And then I decided that I missed the production world way too much, so I left and I started working at various venues in San Diego before I found a home at the House of Blues, where I worked for a couple of years. That was a really crazy experience because I went from working with a couple of artists and knowing everything about their business to, you know, working with everybody for a day. Eventually, you know, the economy was just tough in California, and I didn't want to be there anymore, and so I reached out. I heard Austin City Limits Live was opening, and I just sent an email, and to my surprise, again, they just answered back and said, hey, when you're in town, come to interview, and I left that interview with a job offer. So that's how I decided to move to Austin, and was working at Austin City Limits Live for the first couple months they were open, and through that I got hooked up with Texas Performing Arts, where I was a stage manager, also the Blanton Museum of Art, where I was an event manager on duty, and then eventually that's how I got to know the folks at Strong, and eventually how I got my job there. So music was definitely my career focus for a long time, and until I got offered my job at Strong, I never had even considered being in special events, which is crazy. But I really found it to be a really great creative outlet, because in touring, you know, you're basically given a list and you just have to make it happen. Where in events, I actually get to be part of the creative process that dictates what's happening at the event.
You do it all again, but you don't stop trying.
It felt great to win those awards. When we won Best Designer the year before last, that was really the first time I'd ever received a peer award in my life, and so I was really grateful and excited, and I really wanted it. So yeah, that was a great feeling, and then to win one for the second year in a row, I really wasn't expecting it, because we were up against so many great vendors. I kind of like these kind of questions, like what's your inspiration and what's your creative process, are always really difficult for me to answer, because I feel like the true answer also sounds like a cop-out, which is it's different every time and it comes from anywhere and everywhere. But I mean, it's the truth. Creativity is just, it's not something that you can really, I feel like I can pin down in that way.
Because we're standing in the way of control. We'll live our lives.
ISES has meant a lot to me. When I joined ISES, I was pretty new to Austin still, and so it really just helped me connect to a lot of people and learn about the different services that have been offered, and everybody who's involved in kind of the who's who of Austin. And ISES has also been great because it's been a great learning opportunity. It's been a great place to start expressing leadership, and help me reach some of my bigger career goals of, you know, being able to speak, or, you know, getting my CSEP, and really helping me reach that goal of being somebody who's thought of as an expert in events. And I think the connections I've made through ISES are really helpful in that regard, and I don't think I could have done it without ISES.
Control. We will